Hello and welcome to Culture here on I-24 News. I'm Udit Grober. Thank you so much for joining me. Today on our show, we'll discuss Israeli laws against offending religion and how they affect the media. We'll hear all about the Ethiopian holiday of Timkat. And the Sundance Film Festival opens today. What films are going to Utah this year? Following the recent attacks in France, a public discussion concerning religious feelings arose all around the world. In Israel, it brings forth existing laws which forbid insulting religion or offending religious feelings. Whether the general public is aware of these laws is questionable, especially considering the amount of criticism of religion that is present in the Israeli media. I'm joined now in the studio by journalist Benjamin Tobias to take a closer look at this issue. Thanks for coming in, Benjamin.
Thank you for inviting me.
So what is the law that does exist in Israel?
Well, actually, it's a law dating from 1929, before the existence of Israel, from the time of the British. The British implemented it.
Of all people.
Yeah, they took it. They took it from India. It's after the pogroms, the clashes between Jews and Muslims in 1929. They implemented a law saying that you can't hurt religious feelings. Now, since then, this law has had different versions, and the truth is that most people aren't aware of its existence, which is pretty funny. But still, the law exists. And all attempts to repeal it have failed during the time.
Right, and was it ever used?
Yeah, it was used a couple of times. The most famous case in, let's say, the recent 2 decades was in 1997 when an extreme right-wing...
So long ago.
Yeah, an extreme right-wing activist was sent for 2 years in prison named Tatiana Soskin because she published in Hebron a poster of Muhammad as a pig. So as you see in extreme cases, this law was used and people got to prison for it. But when you see Israeli culture, you see TV, you see caricature, you see that people aren't afraid of offending, so many of them aren't aware of it.
Right. All right. So let's talk about caricatures and tie in the story of what happened at Charlie Hebdo. Could there be an Israeli Charlie Hebdo? Are cartoonists here as daring as they are in France?
I don't think that we would see an Israeli Charlie Hebdo for the fact that in Israel, anti-religious humor is always anti-political humor. But, and there were anti-religious, let's say, supplements. You had supplements named Zu Eretz Zu by Dudu Geva, where you see a duck taking the 10 Commandments. And of course, you see in Israeli caricatures like these, which aren't necessarily political. You see Jewish jokes about God, etc. But you won't see a really anti-religion caricature, not because of the law. I talked to a few famous Israeli animators, the lead drawer of Haaretz, and he said he wasn't aware of this law. So he said it wasn't because of law. He said that for me, anti-religious humor per se, just to insult God or Muhammad or
so there's no real viciousness in it.
Well, again, not real viciousness against the religion. You can see a big viciousness against religious leaders, especially ultra-Orthodox, as we all know in Israel.
That is a political issue.
Yeah, there is a great conflict between seculars and Orthodox here in Israel.
All right, let's talk film and TV, which we see a lot of it on television.
Yeah, and what's interesting that in television we see more of it. I mean, television grew in Israel as part of, let's say, the theater, and in the theater we saw already in the 60s Hanoch Levin, which did
very secular.
Yeah, a very secular maker. He made in theater what was called the Queen of the Bathtub, and there you had anti-religious jokes as political jokes, and this came to also to Israeli TV. Although it wasn't a TV program, it went from theater to TV, and
only recently we saw there's a show on Channel 1.
Yeah, which is called "The Jews Are Coming." So you see in public broadcast, you can still see examples of anti-religious jokes.
So let's have a little taste of "The Jews Are Coming." Come back.
עוד שאלות.
לגבי הלא תרצח.
מה לא ברור ולא תרצח? למה צריך להתווכח על כל דבר? לא תרצח, לא תרצח, מה לא ברור פה?
זה כולל עמלקים? כי אתה ביקשת שנמחה את זכרם. עכשיו, כשאני מוחה זכר, אז אני עושה את זה בעזרת רצח. אז אני מפספסת פה משהו.
צודקת, שימי את העמלקים בצד. לא תרצח, לא כולל עמלקים.
ופלישתים? כן, וחיטים.
ומורים.
ויבוסים.
וגרגסים.
אבל זה לא מה שאמרתי.
אבל אתה ביקשת מאיתנו שננקה את ארץ ישראל מכל יושביה.
אבל זה לא אומר שצריך ישר לרצוח אותם.
אז מה נעשה איתם? נשלח אותם לשייט?
Well, you can't argue with the fact that it is funny.
Yeah, it's very funny. You can see also the influence of Woody Allen and of Monty Python in it. So yeah, it is funny.
Right.
It's pretty rare to see such anti-religious humor. Normally it's tied in Israel with political humor.
Right. When was the peak of this anti-religious sentiment?
I think that in the 80s and the 90s, I mean in the 80s, Israel got more open to the world and exactly people saw more, let's say, Monty Python or Woody Allen films, so they were more aware. You see this in the song by Shalom Hanoch, which says, "We can't wait for the Messiah. Messiah doesn't call us." So it's also a political song, but again, also you can see it as an anti-religious song. In the 90s, the years of the Oslo Agreement, you had what we call the Camry 5, which also had a lot of anti-religious jokes. So again, this was time where Israel was more open to the West. I think that since then, the anti-religious humor has shrunk a bit.
And you think that's the direction that we're heading nowadays?
I don't want to be a prophet if we're talking about religious humor, but yeah, maybe less, or it will become more niche again.
Yeah. Benjamin, thank you so much for coming in.
Thank you.
We now head to Ethiopia, where a holy celebration known as Timkat was held this week by the Ethiopian Orthodox Church. The festivities extend beyond Ethiopia, though, to South Sudan and even to Israel. David Gombin brings us the story.
Timkat is one of the most important festivals of the Ethiopian calendar. It takes place every year on January the 19th, coinciding with the Epiphany, but also celebrates the baptism of Jesus. An extremely colorful event, it is also a meeting place for passionate photographers. During this festival, the replica of the tablets of the law in Ge'ez, are displayed.
Tablets are the manifestation of religion. The tablets represent the Ark of the Covenant of Moses. Each church has its statement, and we will be blessed by them when they come out of Timkat every year. It is the God of words that are written above.
With roots dating back to the 4th century AD, the Ethiopian Orthodox Church is considered one of the oldest in the world. The Timkat is an ancient celebration that has also embraced modernity. It's a blend between time periods.
What has changed are not the foundations of the festival, but more young people wearing blankets. Before there was none. The way they dress. Now you see more people who wear t-shirts with quotes from the Bible. That is what has changed.
Every January 19th, the baptism of Christ is celebrated not only in Ethiopia, but also southern Sudan and Eritrea. The Ethiopian Orthodox Rite unites Eritreans and Ethiopians, two people who clashed during a war of independence which lasted for more than 30 years. Israel is home to both an Ethiopian Christian community and many Eritrean immigrants. The Timkat takes a deeper dimension and becomes an opportunity for them to meet and pray together. They meet on the banks of the Jordan River, and in particular in Qasr al-Yahud, near Jericho, where according to tradition, Jesus Christ was baptized. An important sacred site which welcomes religious celebrations every year, where Christians around the world come to be baptized. A few thousand kilometers from the Horn of Africa, it's on the banks of the Jordan River that the message of love that Jesus preached to his disciples is celebrated.
In just a moment, we'll see which Hollywood stars are premiering films at Sundance this year. But first, our cultural recommendation for the day.
Sigmar Polke was one of the most insatiable experimental artists of the 20th century. He grew up at a time when many Germans denied the blame for the atrocities of the Nazi period was the alibi, meaning I didn't see anything. In various work and exhibition, Polke opposes many Germans of his generation's tendencies to ignore the Nazi past. This retrospective is the first to bring together the unusually broad range of media he worked with during his 5-decade career. Not only paintings, drawings, photography, film, and sculpture, but also notebooks, slide projections, and photocopies, dealing with diversity of topics from consumer society in the 1960s to his interest in travel, drugs, and community living.
Now Avri Rosen-Tzvi is joining me in the studio, and we'll be talking about Sundance.
The Sundance Film Festival.
First of all, I have to say it's a lot more comfortable to talk about Sundance being in Jaffa.
Yeah,
at least as far as temperatures are concerned.
But you know, it's gonna be pretty hot at Sundance this year. Yeah, the festival, which used to be very independent, very, first-time filmmakers, it still has some of that, but the name of the game right now is stars. We see a lot of stars. It has
sold out.
Years ago, we have Sundance and South by Southwest for the really independent, and they're going to sell out, and it's going to be an ever-expanding,
All right.
So we have 123 films at Sundance this year,
number.
And a lot of names. They're also including TV this year for the first time, even though they've already shown Transparent and Top of the Lake in recent years. But this year they're officially putting it in. They're calling it episodic storytelling because TV is not good for them. But let's talk about films because that's what we're here for. One of the most intriguing movies is The End of the Tour. It's by James Ponsoldt, who made The Spectacular Now with Miles Teller and Shailene Woodley, which was a really nice movie. Now he's doing a movie about David Foster Wallace, the amazing author who killed himself years back. Jason Segel, first name, is playing David Foster Wallace. This is based on a true story by David Lipsky, who's a writer, played by Jesse Eisenberg.
His friend?
What? Not a friend. He's a journalist who spends 5 days with him during the tour, the press tour for Infinite Jest. And it's a very interesting. It's a few years before his death. So, that's a very interesting. We move on to I Smile Back, which is the first dramatic role by Sarah Silverman.
Wow.
This is
that's a stretch.
Yes, but she's a very interesting actress. I don't know. I see her and I start laughing, so I don't know how it will work.
I'd like to see the bloopers reel from that film.
Yeah, you're right. It's by not a very well-known director, Adam Sulky. She's playing a housewife with, trouble, compulsion. That's an indie drama. Okay. Moving on to The Overnight, which is Taylor Schilling's first movie since her starring role in Orange is the New Black. This is also like a very small camera film about two couples. Classic Sundance. Another very interesting one is Don Verdan, which is by Jared Hess, which you may remember from Napoleon Dynamite. And Lucha Libre. This is with Sam Rockwell, so it's sure to be funny.
We do love Sam Rockwell.
We have Last Days in the Desert, in which Ewan McGregor plays Jesus. So that should be interesting.
Well,
yeah,
looks the part. Let's get to the big star.
Yeah, well, we have a very, very interesting movie called True Story. Starring the couple who were in the news lately. It's Jonah Hill and James Franco.
Jonah Hill's sitting in for Seth Rogen.
Jonah Hill is sitting in for Seth Rogen.
Let's watch a moment from the trailer.
Watch a moment
Come
and then
back
talk about it.
and hear some more about it.
Hello? Hi, I'm a reporter with the Oregonian. I wanted to get your side on the Christian Longo story.
Who?
He murdered his entire family.
Why are you telling me this?
Because when they apprehended him, he said he was Mike Finkel of the New York Times.
So why me?
I followed your whole career. I guess I felt like I knew you. I want to tell you my side of this. Only you. Maybe at this point it doesn't matter.
The truth always matters.
It always seems to matter to you.
Outcast.
That's not the man I wanted to be.
None of us is the man he wants to be.
Hello?
Jill, hey. It's nice to meet you.
Chris?
Mike, he's been a real friend to me.
I just hope that
We could be friends too.
So I don't know. I didn't laugh once during this trailer. What's going on?
I mean, Franco has done dramatic roles, and Jonah Hill has had the really good Moneyball. But this is an interesting pairing between them, and it looks like a very interesting real life story. So we have a lot to look forward to.
Yeah. Anything about what's it about, or?
Yes, it's about a New York Times journalist who is fired from the magazine, and then he discovered that there's a man who killed his family, who, when he was apprehended, used his name, said, "I'm New York Times correspondent."
And it is a true story?
It's a true story. And then he starts interviewing him.
Avli, thank you so much.
Thank you.
That's it from us for today. I hope you enjoyed our show. We'll be back during the weekend with our weekend edition, so feel free to check in and see what we're talking about then. And I'll see you all again on Monday.